Underrated. I wonder why people don't chant that at games, but they chant overrated at games. Why not, start a chant? If a player is really underrated and he starts popping off, why not chant that? Anyway, besides the point, look, Sweet 16 is here. We'll have a couple videos on that coming up, but just wanted to go through the most underrated Sweet 16 players on every team. Most of these guys are not the leading scorers of this team. Most of them aren't even going to be the best players on the team. They're not going to be the guys with the most buzz, but these are all guys in the starting lineup or coming off the bench that really make an impact and have made an impact on winning in the NCAA tournament. So first up, we got our first game of the day. We got BYU, the Cougars. That is a menacing stare right there. But Keba Keita is a menacing man. Got really long arms. He's very well built at like 6'7", 6'8". Plays their center position. Really good rim protector for his size. And he can clear. He can check. Just a really good piece that's really won BYU or helped BYU win games, I think. Even though he doesn't score the ball a lot, like his defensive presence and his ability to board up has really affected winning. For example, in that Wisconsin game, he kind of manhandled the Wisconsin bigs. So kudos to Keba Keita. Transfer from Utah. He's still got one more year left. But the center for the Cougars is the most underrated player for BYU. Next up, in their opponent, Alabama, their most underrated player is LeBaron Philon. LeBaron Philon is a freshman from Alabama. I think he prepped elsewhere, but from the state of Alabama, late commit to Nate Oates, and not a freshman that everybody had on their radar coming into the year, but boy, has he really shown his talent. Good fit in the Nate Oates system. He can really score the basketball. He's been working on his shot. His shot looks really improved. And I just like Philon's ability to make plays late in the game. In the Auburn game, he made a play where he stripped Todd Pettiford and took it in for a layup. Otherwise, I really like Philon's game. Only a freshman, and he's going to be a first rounder. And that intrigues me because most of the teams, I think all the teams going back to the 1990s who've won the national championship have a first round draft pick on their team. Philon's that guy. He's going to be really good in the future. Maryland, a member of the Crab Five, we got Jacoby Gillespie, transfer from Belmont. He's their point guard, their floor general. About as solid as a point guard as you can get. He's had a great year in the Big Ten, all Big Ten selection. He's just really good. He kind of sets the table for the rest of the Crab Five. He can score the ball. He can shoot really well. He's shooting like 40% from three. But he can also distribute. I just really like these point guards. I think they're so essential to a championship team. Kind of reminds me a little bit of, well, I probably shouldn't make this comparison, but a little bit of Tristan Newton. That's kind of what I'm comparing some of these underrated guys to last year, or like a Cam Spencer, because obviously like Donovan Clingan was the most talented player on the UConn team, but the guys that made them go were the Caravans, the Spencers, the Tristan Newtons of the world. So, yeah, Maryland, Jacoby Gillespie, hoping to lead Maryland past Florida, the number 1 seed. And their best player, not best player, but their best player is Walter Clayton. But their most underrated player is Alex Condon. Condon is their center. But he's not a traditional big. He can shoot the ball a little bit. Is very mobile for a 6'11" guy. I think the announcers always mention like how he played. He's from Australia, so played Aussie football and those type of sports that are popular in Australia. He's an athlete. Um, his ability to defend and clear on the boards will be very important to Florida making a title run because Florida's got the back court to win it all. But the question is, do they have the front court? Alex Condon is the answer to that. Next up, Arizona, the number 4 seed, KJ Lewis, sophomore out of El Paso, Texas. Second year in the program. He's really taken a jump from last year. He's had a great season, but I think he's just an X factor because, coming off the bench, he kind of leads that bench unit, and he can really score. He's an athletic guy, can jump, can check, can really do it all except really shooting. He only shoots 18, 19% from the three, which is pretty bad. But he does have the stroke to shoot it. For example, he shoots 80% from the line. So he's not a bad shooter per se. He's just struggling with the 3-ball. And he's been playing his best down the stretch late. And Arizona has also been playing their best down the stretch late. So if Arizona has a chance to knock off Duke, KJ Lewis will be the guy to help them do it. Duke, so many good players on this team. This is probably the best X factor, I would say, or one of the best underrated players in college basketball. And it's Tyrese Proctor. Proctor was obviously a 5-star 2 years ago when he came in. Hasn't had the career that I guess he imagined coming to Duke, also from Australia. But he's just been such a good player on a team, such a good option to Knipple and Cooper Flagg. He is also a guy who has been red hot down the stretch. I think versus Louisville, he hit 6 threes. Mount St. Mary's, he hit 6. And then in the game the other day against Baylor, he hit 7. So his perimeter shot has improved. He plays good defense. He's got good size at the point guard position. And he just kind of runs the flow for this Duke team, which is metrically the best team in the history of college basketball. Tyrese Proctor is a guy to watch. Next up, Arkansas. Now, Arkansas is the Cinderella this year, right? The 10 seed. So a lot of these guys are underrated per se. They haven't really been viewed all year as a contender. But they are a contender now. I did call it back in November, but anyway, I did fade them in my bracket, so shame on me. Nelly Davis. He's kind of their leader from what I've heard, their locker room leader for the Razorbacks. Senior, 5th-year guy from FAU. Obviously, he was the best player on that FAU team, that marvelous FAU team that went all the way to the Final Four under Dusty May. He was great then, and he's great now. Obviously, hasn't had the statistical season that maybe you would hope for, a top 3 portal guy. But what he's lacked for in scoring, he makes up for in just clutch plays down the stretch, whether that be defensively, knocking down free throws, hitting a clutch 3, getting to the basket. Janelle Davis is a guy who is just a winner. And I think winning is the thing that is most valuable in March. Not scoring, not rebounding, but being able to win close games. And Janelle Davis has proven that he can do that. He's a winner. Arkansas. They'll be taking on Texas Tech, who also is a guy who hasn't had a winning career per se, but he does make winning plays. And that's Elijah Hawkins. Look, Hawkins kind of came on my radar last year when he was either he had the lead in assist or he was close to it at Minnesota. He then transfers to Texas Tech, and I just love Elijah Hawkins' game. He's their floor general, their PG1, and he's so unselfish with the ball. But he's been learning to take his shots too, He can get hot from beyond the three-point arc. He is super quick. And defensively, he did a pretty solid job on Bennett Sturts the other day. Elijah Hawkins is such a great player to have for the Red Raiders. And, yeah, his just ability to just control the game. I think a point guard in March is so important to have, a guy who can take care of the ball, control the game well. That is is Elijah Hawkins. So Texas Tech looking to take down Arkansas in that game. Next up, we're going to day 2 now. We got Matthew Morrell, Ole Miss. He's their third leading scorer, but don't get it fooled. This guy is not a scrub by any means. Loyalty is something that I really love in college basketball, loyalty and continuity. It's just such a breath of fresh air when you got everybody leaving at the slightest chance. But Matthew Morrell has stuck with Ole Miss for 5 years. He's been a 4-year starter there. And I think most games in Ole Miss history, that veteran presence is really important to Ole Miss coming down the stretch because they can use that age and experience to maybe outlast some of these younger teams and stay mentally tough when, their team might be out-talented per se. Morrell is just a solid glue guy, I feel. He's averaging like 10, 11 points a game. All these guys are averaging close to 10 or 11, but Morrell has the ability to play good defense. He is a good frame. He's a 6'6" guard/forward type guy. You can put him on the court, and Chris Beard knows that he can trust Matthew Morrell because he's been here consistently for 5 years. Knows the program, loves the program. Ole Miss. They'll be taking on Michigan State, and I feel as if the entire Michigan State roster is underrated. Look, I haven't been the biggest fan of the Spartans all year because of kind of the lack of talent per se, but they have some dogs on their team. Don't get it twisted. Trey Holloman is one of those dogs. You saw him shoving the Michigan players the other day. He's got some stuff to him, and I like to see that. We all know Trey Holloman for hitting that half-court shot to beat, or three-quarter court shot to beat Maryland on their home floor at the buzzer. That was insane. But Trey Holloman, I just love he and all the Michigan State guards' ability to check. They kind of had Donovan Dent running in circles a little bit to the point where Donovan Dent didn't look like the best guard on the court. And Holloman just has the confidence and the swagger to pull up and hit a three, hit clutch shots. He's an Izzo guy. So, like I said, loyal to the program, loyal to the soil, makes for good basketball teams, my opinion. Next up, we got Kobe Brea. Best shooter in the country right here. Kobe Brea, he's smiling because he knows he's the best shooter in the country. 4-year guy for Dayton. I watched him play as a Flyer, and he was amazing there. He shot like 48% from three there, close to 50%. But he's coming off the bench, and I was just kind of like, why are we sticking a 48% three-point shooter off the bench? And he had some struggles early on, as he's not the best at driving to the rim or, D'ing up. But, man, especially in that Illinois game where they were, getting him in ball screens and they were playing drop coverage and he would just shoot right over him. Whenever Kobe Brea shoots the three ball, even if it's open or not open, you're surprised if it doesn't go in. That's how good of a shooter he is. He's got the experience. I think Kentucky's Mark Pope team can be very dangerous. And Kobe Brea is an X factor to watch in the Tennessee game. Tennessee has their own X factor who may try to stop Kobe Brea. He'll probably guard Otega Owe in this game, I would imagine. But Jemai Mashak. Jemai Mashak is probably your favorite coach's favorite player. I've heard coaches all around the league talk about him, and he's just my type of player. He's a guy who's willing. He's the emotional and vocal leader, senior captain for the Volunteers. He's just a guy who's willing to do anything to win. I remember going back to last March, he was a good part of them going pretty far. And the thing with Mashak is defense. He's the reason why Tennessee is always in the top 2 or top 3 best defensive teams in the year. Every single year, they're going to miss Jemai Mashak when he's gone just because he's the perfect glue guy for the Volunteers. Next up, here's a guy who's gained a lot of popularity as of late, but he wasn't always, really great down the whole Michigan year, but Michigan Wolverines have Trey Donaldson. He is close to the best, most underrated player. He's also a point guard, a guy who's going to be on the floor a lot for the Wolverines. Auburn transfer who didn't play that well last year at Auburn, and I get the sense that Bruce Pearl kind of was okay to see him leave. But he's had a revival with Dusty May in Michigan, and it all started in that Maryland game in the Big Ten tournament where he took the ball coast to coast and hit a layup with pretty much at the buzzer. He is so quick, so fast, and he's not afraid to just step up and take that clutch shot. That's what I'm looking for, like in an underrated player or a guy who's just not afraid to step up to the moment. In both the UC San Diego game and the Texas A&M game, Michigan was down or Michigan was reeling, and Trey Donaldson hit a clutch, tough shot, 1-2 and 1-3, pretty much a dagger in both the Tritons and the Aggies to advance them onto the Sweet 16. I'll be interested to see how he plays a revenge game against his former team. I love it. Now, on to Auburn. They have the point guard of their own that's underrated. Tahad Pettiford is their X factor, right? One of the questions about Auburn is the one that I had as well. We know how good Janai Broome is. We know how complimentary, how good Dylan Cardwell is, And we know that Chad Baker-Mazara can be kind of a wild card, but he's a good starter as well. But we were just curious about how the guards of Auburn would perform. Tahad Pettiford hasn't been the greatest freshman in all of college basketball, but he's been definitely top 10 in my opinion. He's kind of emerged as PG1. He doesn't really start, but he's PG1 for this Auburn team. He's the guy who's going to be handling the ball down the stretch. Going to be the one who's taking those tough outside shots. He's a lefty from New Jersey, and he's just a Bruce Pearl guard, man. He plays really tough. He plays way above his age, way above his stature. Really impressed with Tahad Pettiford. And I think if Auburn's going to go all the way like they want to, Tahad Pettiford's going to have to play well alongside Janai Broome and friends. Your last matchup. This is probably the one that you might know the most. And you may say that this guy's not underrated because he's the leading scorer for the Boilermakers, and he's also an honorable mention All-American. But it's Trey Kaufman-Renn. Purdue, I think, is the most top-heavy team in the tournament. They have the least depth, in my opinion. And some may say that's a bad thing, but their three top guys, especially their top two, are amazing. There's no pick-and-roll duo I would rather take in the country than Braden Smith and Trey Kaufman-Renn. Trey Kaufman-Renn is a little bit undersized for a five-man. You know, he's like 6'8", 6'9", but he's rugged, he's built tough, and he can score in the paint on anyone. I love his little jump hook that he does. He also knows how to board. Not a great defender, but, you know, he's got the size to, you know, check some guys. But just a pure scorer, relentless guy. Grinder. He jumped from kind of being Zach Edey's backup, being in a shadow, to being the leading scorer on a Purdue team that's in the Sweet 16. And he was a big reason why Purdue was able to knock off High Point and McNeese to advance to this point. Finally, the team that I think will win the national championship. So the ultimate X factor. There are many. Houston's got a lot of underrated dogs on their team, but Emmanuel Sharp is my favorite. Emmanuel Sharp shoots the lights out from three. Got a kind of an unorthodox shooting form, but his shot is really, really good, man. Emmanuel Sharp, I believe he's a 3-year guy for Kelvin Sampson, came to the program a couple years ago, and he just really plays that role of the third guard. Even though he's only 6'3", it seems like he plays much above his height. Obviously, he plays for Kelvin Sampson, so you know he can defend, he can check. But this man's three-point shooting ability is off the charts. Best shooter on Houston. Recall a couple years ago, he was hitting clutch shots Last year, he hit some clutch shots. Houston, there's a reason why they're in the Sweet 16 every single year. And Emmanuel Sharp has been a constant. And, he's shooting 43% from three, 89% from the line. And watch the 4-point play with Emmanuel Sharp, because a lot of teams are flying out to him, and he's really good at taking that contact and finishing three-pointers. Emmanuel Sharp is a dog. So that's our most underrated players, 16 of them to be exact.